Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, a conversation with yours truly, Dion Parson. I'm really excited about presenting our guest tonight. This is a gentleman that I've known for a while. We were just talking before the show and kind of discussing where we first met. And our first gig was with Wycliffe Gordon, and just bringing back some memories. He's originally from Washington, D.C., but grew up in North Carolina. He's a talented bassist, master bassist, educator, composer, and he has a hidden talent, which we'll talk about later with his specialty that he does also. Please join me in welcoming to the show, Mr. Herman Burney.
Brother DP, man, I owe you some money for all of them kind words, man. Wow. That was a lot. Let me see what I got in my wallet here.
Nah, man, I'll send you my PayPal.
Oh, okay. All right. Man, thank you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Man, all is well, brother. All is well.
Good, man. The last time we saw each other was January at the Gen Conference.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. That was my first Gen conference. I had been to one way back when it was IAJE.
Okay.
And that was my first quote unquote Gen conference. Mm-hmm. But it was good to see you, man. Absolutely.
Likewise. Yeah. And, you was getting in and I was heading out. So
yep.
Yeah, we both got a little taste of it and then did our thing. But thank you for taking the time. I know we've been talking about getting you on this show for a while, and I'm so happy you're here, man.
Man, likewise, brother. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Really. So let's just jump right into it, man. Herman Burney, bass player extraordinaire. I mean, just share with our audience. I mean, how did you get started on the bass? I mean, you don't have to go way back. Just a quick, review, because we got a lot of other things to talk about.
So the quickest way to explain it is I started playing the upright bass for all the wrong reasons.
Okay.
Everything was wrong. Just you name it. It was just wrong. I thought it was easy. Thought I didn't have to practice. Thought I was going to meet girls. I thought I was going to be playing with everybody. You name it. The list was everything wrong, just wrong. And then, man, and this is really what turned me around. So a friend of mine, great piano player, he invited me to a gig that he was playing. And he said, you need to come to this gig and listen. So, I was in college. I was like, well, are any girls going to be there? And so I went to the gig, and George Duvivier was playing bass.
Okay.
Man, it shocked me. I had to stop messing with the bass. I wasn't serious at all anyway, but I had to step back and really examine my motives and the reason why I was doing it and the seriousness of, at least I think, much more serious than what I was taking it at the time.
Right.
I'm sure you're aware of George Duvivier, man. That dude he was one of the, he was the man. He was the bass player's bass player. Mm-hmm. For many, many years. A lot of people kind of overlook him. He was from New York, but I don't know if that was the reason or not, but because he was there, he ushered a lot of people onto the scene. Like, for instance, he was the one that sort of brought Milt Hinton onto the scene.
Okay.
And people kind of think it's the reverse, but it's really Duvivier brought him into the scene. But back to your question, though, that was the event that made me step back and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to be a little bit more serious and I need to practice. I don't need to be doing this just to meet girls. It ain't simple. It ain't easy. And then, I realized, the discipline that he had. This man could play anything he wanted to, but he always only played what the music needed at that time.
Right.
And that just, I was done, because I was just, hey, baby, look at this. What do you think about this? Stupid, just stupid.
So did you study with him? Did you end up studying with him, or
I only got to meet him twice, that one time. And then I went to meet him the next day before he left. And that was it.
Okay.
But similar experiences, man, I'm very, very blessed to have met some of our heroes. you know, on the particularly on the bass. And so, you know, those guys, man, it's like they've been over backwards trying to help me out. I don't know if they looking for money or what it was, but they were really, really bending over backwards trying to help me out, man. So as a result, man, I try to take it serious. I feel it's a responsibility, it's a blessing, but you know, I have to develop it and share it and grow it and, you know, just respect it.
Right. That's great, man. That's great. So where did you go to school?
Man, I didn't go to school for music. I went to school for engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's where I was at the time, you know, when I was in there just trying to meet girls and, you know, so, you know, the music wasn't like something that I was, you know, real serious about at that time.
Yeah.
But I went to 2 undergraduate schools. I went to North Carolina State University and St. Augustine's College, both of those in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Right.
And then I went to graduate school at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro.
Okay. And that was all engineering.
Yeah, that was all engineering.
So,
yeah.
And so basically the music was you just fell in love with the music and just did that.
Yes, but it was there before school.
Okay.
It was there. Like, I don't know, there's somebody's song that says mama sang, daddy sang bass, mama sang tenor, some song somewhere. But my point is that's true in my family. My folks both sung in the choir. My dad was a piano player. He had, I mean, he was in the, you know, had a trio for a long time, you know, when he was in the service. My mom played piano, you know, so they weren't necessarily active musically when we came along, but they always had music going around the house. Right. So I learned it was just kind of sinking in. And then I learned by ear, and then later came back to add the reading piece, you know, figure out, oh, this is what that note is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really interesting how everybody's, you know, career path is so different, because all the years I've known you, I never knew you were an engineer.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that, like,
right.
You know, the interesting thing about this show for me, at least, is like it's so informative. I have the best seat that I could just sit down and talk with my good friends and learn things about them that I've never knew before. And here we go. I mean, I've known you, man.
Oh, it's been at least 25 years or something.
I have no idea.
Easy 25. It might be 30 years. It could be.
Yep. You know, you've played with everyone, and you know, we played on so many gigs together, and I just didn't know that. But that's great, man. So when did you make the decision to like not pursue the engineering and make music? You know, that's the thing you're gonna do. When did you make that decision?
I made that decision after I actually got a job as an engineer. And it was funny, man. Everybody at the job knew that I was in love with music. Soon as the bell was done or day was done, I was gone doing something musical. And then I come dragging back in the next day. You know, so, you know, I was able to do what I had to do, but I knew I didn't love it.
Right.
I didn't dislike it, but it just wasn't something that I'd wake up in the morning wanting to do.
Right. And that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. And so, you know, while I was there, man, I just, it was burning in my, and plus, man, thankfully, during that time, even while I was still working as an engineer, I was getting exposed to some great musicians. It was during that time where I met Wycliffe.
Right. And
this was like back in it might have been 1989 or 1990, something like that, but it was early. And so, you know, I'm still working this engineering job, but I'm also meeting people that, man, these are like excellent musicians. And so that, and a whole bunch of just internal dialogue, prayer, you know, thoughts and all of that. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go do this. I can't. I just gotta do this. Yeah. It
comes to a point where you have no choice.
Yeah. That's what it was. Exactly.
And you
I don't regret it either.
Well, I mean, bro, you're doing it. You're doing it. I mean, so So you made that decision. What year was that? That you know
That
you
was maybe like 94, 95, something like that.
yeah.
Because I was thankfully, man, I started getting opportunities to play with people and some travel, and I was having to take off from this engineering job. So after a while, it was just too much to try to balance.
Right. Yeah.
And again, man, I don't regret it at all, man. It was a good experience, but I don't regret,
That's great, man. That's
you
great.
know,
It's funny. I was talking to someone, and when we came up, you could play a club for a week, and you could go
oh,
on tour for a month. Is that a lot that doesn't exist these days. I mean, you get a one night, maybe a weekend, or Thursday through a Sunday.
yep,
Forget a tour anywhere for longer than a week. You go to Europe, you do a one night, and you come back. If you do
right,
anything longer than that, you're happy. I mean, I just remember going on the road 7 weeks at a time
right, yeah.
back
I
then.
had some of those experiences too, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and truthfully, the other thing, I agree with you, first of all. And the other thing that's missing as a result of what you're saying is like real band gelling.
yeah, yeah.
Now, I'm not in any way criticizing anybody's music or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's just a difference between, like, on one hand, you've got a group of like all-stars, like amazing musicians. They may not play together often, but they're all amazing, and it's gonna sound killing. There's no
Right.
question about that. And then on the other hand, you've got a band of people who may not be as quote unquote well known,
Hmm.
but they're great musicians. They play together all the time, and they sound like a band.
You sound like a band. Yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing that I think has also missing, some partly due to what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. Well, the band concept has been gone. I mean, I could name 4 or 5 artists that have a band. I
Right.
mean, outside of that is like you just kind of artists travel and pick up who they can or take. I remember going
Exactly.
on the road with a particular big band, and it was drums, lead alto, lead trumpet, lead trombone, piano player. Everybody else, five musician for 18-piece big band, and we picked up cats along the way. The sound check
Wow.
was the rehearsal, and we did like couple hits like that throughout the week, and
Yeah.
that was the layout.
Yeah.
And that's something that I remember talking to my mentors when I first, got on the scene, and they were talking about the apprenticeship process of how they came
Oh
up
boy, that's
band,
largely missing. That's
yeah,
missing.
in bands. I mean, and the
Yep.
band and all the bands had a sound. You could tell you hear 2 bars of music and you knew exactly who it was.
Yep. And also, like, bands traveled together back then.
Right. Yeah.
Like now, it's more of a, well, we'll bring you over and you play with such and such, or maybe the budget just doesn't allow you to
Right.
bring,
Right.
your group. I
But
mean,
it
things
created a
change.
certain environment because, like, you could look at, like, say, for instance, our Blake and the Jazz Messengers, like, all of the horn players and rhythm section cats that came out of that went on to successful careers. Betty Carter, her
Absolutely.
rhythm sections, and they stayed together too. You
Yep.
put all of those rhythm sections together, and those cats are still playing together today.
Yep.
Because they work together. The rehearsals and rehearsal. I remember checking out AT, Arthur Taylor.
Oh
We
my
lived a
God.
block from each other, and his band rehearsed every day, 2-3 hours a day, gig or no
Sure.
gig. Just that's
Sure.
what they did. And
Yeah.
yeah, and the fellowship is amazing also. So you gel together, Elvin Jones Jazz Machine. I mean, we could name it, but cats
Oh,
had
sure.
bands.
But you just hit on two very, very important things: the apprenticeship and then the fellowship.
Yep.
Um, Obviously, the apprenticeship is largely missing, and
Hmm.
I think as a result of the business, the way things are now, the fellowship is not as fellowship off the bandstand,
Right.
because I can't quantify it, but boy, it sure sounds different when you hear a band of people that get along versus you hear a band of cats that just don't get along at all.
or just showed up to make the gig.
Yeah, they just there to make the gig. They ain't trying to, play with everybody.
It makes a big difference, man. It really that was I remember having a conversation when I first came together, man. And the Roy Hargroves, Roy would have a band for 5-6 years before,
Absolutely.
And again, that was the concept back then. Your cats wanted to play with each other and they gelled and you find out who worked together, and that was the deal. Now it just doesn't happen. And it's even harder getting cats to just get together and play because, like, oh, you don't have a gig? Well, man, call me when you have a gig.
Right. No money. Oh,
yeah.
You kidding? No cash.
So and it's just at different times. But these are just things that I think about. I feel that we were fortunate to come through a time where that apprenticeship and that fellowship was prominent. You could go to a club and hang out, even though they closed the doors. You could sit in the club till 6 o'clock in the morning and hang.
Absolutely.
That don't exist anymore.
Another thing, and this it's arguable. Okay, let me just say that up front. You could argue on either side. The quote unquote legitimizing of Black American music in terms of bringing it to schools.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the point I'm making. I'm not arguing for or against it, just pointing it out.
Right.
Like you see back in the day that we're talking about, if you wanted to study with Art Taylor, you had to go to him.
You have to go find.
You got to go find him, and you basically sit at his feet and learn from him. If I wanted to study with Ray Brown, I went to Ray Brown and I studied with him. I sat at his feet, and that was just the way it was at that time.
All right.
Fast forward many years, and now it's like an education system. You've got undergraduate school, you've got graduate school, you've got doctorates, you've got performance degrees, masters of fine arts. You have all of these educational, which listen, those are very, very incredible accomplishments. All I'm pointing out is it's just different from back then till now.
It's different. It's different from back then. I was fortunate to when I went to Rutgers University, a number of great musicians were teaching there. Kenny Byron was teaching there. Larry Ridley was teaching there. Ted Dunbar, Fielder, trumpet instructor. Keith Copeland was on drums. But then I was like 45 minutes away from New York, so every weekend we were in New York hanging out with the cats, and you got to meet different cats. I mean, I ended up, after I left Rutgers, I ended up moving to New York and studying with master drummer Michael Carvin for 14 years. And again, you had to build that relationship to get into his studio. It wasn't like, hey man, I want to come study with you. It was, and you had to maintain a level of proficiency.
Yep.
To stay there. It's not like I'm coming to study and you putting this on your resume. It wasn't like that. You had to put in your time.
Right.
And all of the masters had that. Ron Carter, bass player, Buster Williams, all of those cats. I mean, I remember talking with AT. A lot of people thought I studied with AT. I never studied with AT. I asked AT for a lesson and he quoted me this price. I couldn't even afford it. And he said, but I'm going to do you one better. My good friend Steve Grossman is in Italy looking for a drummer. I'm going to send you over there to play with him.
Oh, beautiful.
That was the lesson.
There you go.
And I would sit in his apartment. He would play me the recordings. Like, this is us playing. Check this out. And he would just talk me through the music.
Yep.
And I went and I did all these gigs with
Grossman.
With Grossman, But my lessons with AT was life. Again, I would sit there while he was rehearsing his band. So I learned how to rehearse a band, from a drummer standpoint, being a drummer leader. So different things I got from him, but we didn't sit down and talk about paradiddle and the Spangalang.
Right. I would submit to you that in some ways you can argue, for and against. That's at least as important as the current.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it was a different environment, and you said
it was totally different.
You had to go out and find these mentors and these masters and prove to them that you was worthy to study with them.
That's right. And you know what it was? Another thing that I realized is they were very, very careful about who they invested in.
Exactly.
Because it might be, for example, it might be a waste of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And it also might be a waste of, in that case, if it was me, it could be a waste of my time if I wasn't serious.
Right. Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense, because I'm going out saying, oh man, I'm over here studying with bass player X and I ain't shedding. I ain't, so it looks embarrassing to him. It looks embarrassing to me, because I'm not doing what this person would have, had told me to do.
Yeah.
It
was a different level of accountability on both ends.
Yeah. And again, man, I'm not down on either one of them. It just so happens that, we both have had some of the quote unquote old school,
right,
but also some of the new school situation. And it is what it is. That's how it goes.
Changed. And I remember coming to New York and, running into cats, and then they disappear. I don't see them like 4 or 5 months later. I'm like, where you been? Man, I took a teaching job. And I'm like, good for you. And other cats, but oh man, he ain't serious. He's teaching now. And now, like, I went to the Gen conference and it's like, hey, what's up? Well, I'm at this university. I'm at this. Everybody's got a teaching gig.
Yep, that's right.
Everybody's got a teaching gig. That's where, that's just part of creating the livelihood. Because again, going back to what we talked about originally, the scene, the performance scene has changed a lot. So
that's a whole different story. Yeah, the performance scene has changed.
It's a combination. You have to have multiple resources to sustain yourself out here. So, but man, it's really interesting that we're saying a lot of the same things because of the generation we came up with. And
sure.
Doing it on the bass, and I'm doing it here on my end. But there's a lot of things that I know that you, besides music, that you do also. I want to touch on this a little bit, because we have so many things you shared with us, man. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, how do I fit all of this into hours?
I ain't want you to be saying, well, he ain't sitting there to anything,
Oh man, this is great, man. This is great. It's a lot. Tell us about Basement.
So I started that back in the mid 90s. Sort of, that's my incorporated business. And the purpose was really for me to study, for me to learn, for me to share, for me to document about the bass. And a part of that, there are several like umbrellas up underneath that. One of them is a group, which is 4 basses. And so that's definitely a part of it. The other umbrella that's under it is some stuff I do photography on the side, so that's part of it. And so it's sort of it is my corporation, but I started it to learn and to share and to grow.
Okay. And I'm really intrigued by it, because it's a unique concept, and I like the fact you have this group with 4 bass players. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it started back in the 90s. I was living in a little town called Wilmington, North Carolina, right on the beach. And a dearly departed friend of mine, and we talked about mentors who take some time with you, John Hurd.
John Hurd, yep.
John Hurd, incredible human being, incredible. Like, just master musician. He's also master sculptor, painter, any kind of medium, whatever you can think of, he was there. And so it's a strange, funny story how we met. So I knew a couple in Wilmington who had moved there from LA, which is obviously where John Hurd was at the time. So they knew each other from LA. And so one day I was over their house, and the husband, Bob was his name. Bob says, I'm going to call John and I'm going to have you play and I'm going to talk. And so he called John Hurd, and I was, hey, John, I got this bass, man. What do you think? And then he'd have me play something. Well, I got a bow with it. What do you think about this? And he'd have me play something else. So that's how we met on the phone, and we talked on the phone for a number of years. I would go out and visit him, study, stay at his house, play bass, watch him do whatever he does. Now, that's how I met John Hurt. And the reason for telling you that is because he was the one that urged me to do my very first 4-bass concert.
Okay.
And a guy from Wilmington who was doing a festival asked me to put a band together.
Mm-hmm.
And John said, put 4 bass players together. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the impetus for me to do it. So on that first concert was obviously John Hurt, Carol DeShiel,
Mm-hmm.
Reginald Veal, and myself.
Okay.
And bro, let me tell you, I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but man, it was like one of the most incredible things ever. You know, because the bass, as you obviously know, we can step in different lanes. You know, we can stand in our lane, which is the biggest lane for us is support. But, you know, we can also sort of, in certain types of music, step over into a percussive kind of lane.
Mm-hmm.
Still playing notes, but like in certain types, and I air quotes around it, Latin music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the bass becomes part of the like real rhythm section. And I don't mean that, you know what I mean? It's more of a rhythm instrument. But then, you know, basses can play melodies and can play solos. So that was a way of us to present something to the public. And it ended up being, it was just 4 different people playing the same instrument.
Right.
4 different personalities.
Did you guys have a rhythm section accompanying you as well? Or
no, it was just 4 basses. Okay. That was it. And we didn't miss. And, you know, I love playing with you drummers. There's no question about that. But it was cool. It was no problem.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because I mean, everybody up there has an incredible beat, you know, so nothing was lost. And it was, anyway, so I'm going on and on. But the bottom line is, man, that was what sort of gave me the impetus to start this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's still going today.
Still going. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who are the bass players?
The latest iteration, and I say latest because everybody's busy, which is a blessing. The latest iteration is in DC with James King and Victor DeVoskin. We've had it's been a trio so far, regularly, that is. But we've had, man, McBride comes down to play with us. Ron Carter. We've had Steve Novosel. We've had some of the younger cats. We had Corcoran Holt played with us. Yeah. I could go on and on. Believe me, and it's always a great time. Always a great time.
Yeah. And it's a unique setting, you know. It's like, and it pays homage to the instrument on a whole nother level.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's great.
And you know, it's interesting you say that because it ain't for everybody, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way at all.
Right.
It's because suddenly, you know, typically we're the only bass player in the band, or like in your case, typically you're the only drummer in the band, and suddenly you're in a choir. Right. You know, it's like you really got to stay in your lane so that the whole choir comes across and sounds like a choir.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm likening it to like Max Roach and Boom, you know, which is like all percussion.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And also another one that I'm sure you're familiar with, the New York Bass Choir.
Yeah.
Bill Lee was the guy that sort of put that together. And there were some great bass players that it just didn't fit for them. It wasn't that had nothing to do with them as a person or their playing or anything. It just didn't fit in that situation. That's all it was.
Yeah. That's great, man. We'll continue success on that, man. We got a comment about the structure of the entertainment system these days, and you know, iconic bands not existing. You know, just a comment off of what it's great that our audience and folks can make comments on this. So, I mean, they kind of agreeing with what we're saying. Today, most music is streamed. No one expects to pay for the artist's product. Try to name a kind of iconic band since 1990. You know, there will never be another. I mean, you know, so I mean, it's an industry.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
this is the industry thing. I mean, my band have 7 people in it. Sometimes, you know, when people book me, and I'm like, hey, this is what I would like to bring. They say, oh, but such and such live here. You could use them, and you know, they could play in your band, and you don't have to pay for that hotel room. And I said, but then it's not my band.
Exactly.
You know, it's not
exactly
sound. You know, people don't realize that when you go back and you listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and you know, you could. It's a sound, but
man,
yeah.
I was just talking to somebody yesterday, actually. One of my I call him my son, my oldest nephew. You know, that was a whole different time for bands.
Yeah,
and you mentioned Earth, Wind, and Fire. There's plenty of others, but. Oh my gosh, man, that was it was
a product.
They put serious thought.
It's about the individual,
right?
And then every couple of years, then that individual changes. It's the same positioning, but you just put another person in that.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, and
exactly.
But hey, that's the industry. But
yeah. You know,
man, we can keep going on and on and on and on and on about that. But like I said, you shared so much stuff with us, man.
Brother, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I want to jump into your music because I don't even know where to start, so I'm gonna just jump in there, man. You said some recordings. We're gonna play this. We're gonna play this.
Okay.
We'll talk about it after, because I know the audience is. They're like, man, let's hear the music. Let's hear the music.
Oh man, good. So what you got on tap?
The best of the beats.
Oh, the best of the bets.
The best of the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best of the best. Yeah. Let's check that out.
All right, cool.
Yes, the best of the best.
Yeah, yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
So who's that song written for?
So, I'm glad you asked. It was written for Keter Betts.
Okay.
Keter Betts, as I'm sure you are aware, was just an incredible human being. Obviously, he was a great, great musician. He was a great bass player. He was also a photographer. And again, it all comes back to him just as a human being. I had known him for many years, and this goes back to our earlier conversation, where you know somebody, like really know them personally. And he had a massive, massive impact on me. He helped me out in so many ways. Even before I moved back to DC, he was helping me out already. He's like, well, go do this gig, you can make this gig. Yeah, I'm not playing that. Well, you go do it, that sort of thing. So that was written for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a great composition, man. I'm vibing on it. Who's the personnel on the recording?
Oh, first of all, thank you. There is Eric Kennedy on drums, Joel Holmes on piano, the great Victor Provost on steel pan, and also the great Warren Wolf. All of them are great. Don't misunderstand me. I didn't eliminate great from anybody's name on purpose. And Warren Wolf was on vibes, and of course myself on bass.
You had 3 out of 5. I'm trying to do my own blindfold test there. I'm like, I 3 out of 5. So
good, yeah. Oh yeah, it's easy to, you got them big ears. So
oh man, come on, man. But that's great. It's great that you're paying homage to him, man. I know he influenced a lot of bass players and musicians, especially from the DMV area.
Absolutely. And really quickly, if you think about it, there was a time when there's like several or even a crew of bass players, and it's still happening today, but I'm just talking about one particular snapshot in time. Like suddenly all these bass players came to New York from DC, killing, all of them killing.
Yeah.
And my point is not only to say that they're great, but also to emphasize the fact that Papa Keter had a massive effect on them and me and everybody else that came through.
Oh yeah, DC has produced so many bass players, man. Fun, Wheeler, you, a whole bunch of cats that
we could go down a list.
Even
today, man, those new cats.
This is the new generation now. So yeah,
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
and cats, can play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So he had a massive impact. He was not only human and musician and mentor, but he also was an incredible educator. Like one time I went over his house, calling myself getting a lesson. I went down in the basement and I started asking him some questions. He just walked out the room, turned the light off. And I'm in there in the dark. Like, what in the world? He was like, well, you need to be able to play in the dark. There's nothing for you to see. So,
same thing happened to me, man. I took many lessons in the dark.
Yeah.
Many lessons,
and especially on bass, because there's really nothing.
There's nothing to look at. You got to straighten the board. It's not like electric where you have those lines what's that called? The fret lines.
Yeah, the frets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, I say that I'm not saying electric bass is easy. I'm not any instrument. Piano, you got everything is laid out in black and white. It ain't easy.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like bass and trombone, you're playing a tuning slide all night.
Yeah. And you got to know you got to know your way around.
Yeah, there's no other way to explain it.
Yeah. That's great, man. A great lesson. There you go.
Oh man.
That's what happens when you study with masters.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that was written for him, and I tried to capture his incredible, his fun, his effervescent, his just happy spirit, because he had that And quite frankly, man, it took me a while to understand that even that was his way of like laying some information on me.
Right.
You know, he'd just come up and he'd say something and then he'd just go away.
Right.
And I'm standing, one time I stood there and I said, he just laid some heavyweight information on me. I need to, like, this is real.
Go and digest it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And he's gone, you know, he's just off to somebody else.
Great, great,
So,
great,
yeah.
man. So that's the best of the best for Keita.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's continue. You shared another one, and this is unique. I really enjoyed this one.
Oh, man.
Papa's folk song. Let's check
Oh,
this
man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's check this one out.
Okay.
So I know that one was called Papa's folk song, but that's a beautiful bass lullaby, bro.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you. Man, it was written the same night that I found out Papa Keita had passed away.
Wow. Okay.
I was on a gig and the cat waited until the break to tell me. And literally a picture of him was like right behind me on the gig. And so, it took me a minute to kind of compose myself, finish out the gig, man. But that's what came to me when I got home.
Yeah. I could tell there was something behind it. That's why I said it's like a lullaby, something you could just close your eyes and just reflect on life.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Beautiful,
man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
One of the guest artists was asked, not the guest artist, the audience was asking if do you ever use the bow?
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's yeah. It's
only one without it.
No, I think it's actually, well, it's part of it's not required, but I think it's just part of the history of the bass. It's the violin family. It's I personally like to use it and think it's necessary for me because it helps me to get my intonation together. Because suddenly if you're plucking the bass, that's one thing, but when you're bowing the bass, that's a whole different thing. It sounds different. Suddenly it's like la as opposed to doom, doom, doom. So it's a different sound, and that more sustained thing really helps me to find like this, helps me to find the center of the pitch.
Great.
So
yeah. Thanks.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's continue with the music because we're on the roll here. The next composition that we're going to listen to is entitled Playground. Let's check this out.
Okay.
That's Playground. So that's an interesting title for a 3/4 waltz, you know.
Yeah, it is. I was imagining just like a child
Hmm.
bouncing around a playground,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
even running through a field, just having fun, just
yeah.
kind of, just that kind of vibe,
Yeah, it's nice and relaxing and flowing, man. So,
Oh
so
man,
someone
thank you,
is
brother.
asking, Henry's asking, who's the trombone player?
Oh, the great Reginald Cinci was on
Hmm.
trombone. And I see the other comment. That's also that wasn't Victor that time. That was Warren Wolf again on
Vibes.
vibes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's the same rhythm section,
Yes,
Joel.
that's right. Same rhythm with Joel Holmes on the piano and Eric Kennedy on the drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Great recording, man. Beautiful. What's the
Oh,
name of the recording? What's the name of the album?
the name of the album and the offer is The Offering.
The Offering. Okay.
Yes.
And when does this come out?
Oh, it's actually very old. This is 2011.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I have several projects, one of which is ready to go. Another one is almost ready to go.
Mhm.
And then another one is the one that you and I were talking about.
Okay.
So,
So
so
they're
it's
lining up. Huh?
yeah. I got them lined up, and
Yeah.
it's a matter of pulling the trigger, saying, "Hey, man, let it go." And I honestly I struggle with that. Okay, does it sound okay? Is it okay to And then after a certain point, I just okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I mean, the music is beautiful, man, and the musicians are, of course, everybody's playing their butt off, man.
Oh
So
man, thank you,
yes,
thank you.
sir. So we have one more song that you shared, and this is entitled "Just Touching Bags."
Bass,
Just touching base.
right.
Yeah, so just touching base. So
Yeah.
what's this one about?
Okay, so one of the tunes that a lot of us musicians struggle with is giant steps. And so this is giant steps, but with some alternate chord changes.
Hmm.
Suffice it to say, for those, geeks out there, think about the 6th degree of the scale. And that's all I'll say about that for now. But that's
Okay.
basically all it is. So it's again Eric Kennedy on drums, it's Victor Provost on steel pan, Warren Wolf is on vibraphone, and then myself on bass, and that's it. So it's no piano, no horns on this one.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah,
just touching base. Let's check
yeah,
it out.
exactly.
Touching base, huh?
Yeah, just touching base a little bit, you know.
Giant steps.
Yeah, you know, it's as you well know, that's a challenging situation
Mm-hmm.
to make sense out of it. And speaking as a bass player, to make
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right. So you decided to do it without piano.
yeah, because you know, the role of the bass. Obviously, there's a role in a regular rhythm section.
Mm-hmm.
You take away drums, for example, then the bass becomes, it has to sort of absorb part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And let me be clear, I don't in any way suggest that the drummer is the only timekeeper. I don't suggest that at all.
Right.
I'm just saying, in the absence of a drummer, well, then the bass is sort of helping, absorbing some of that role. That's the best way I can say it. And likewise, if in a rhythm section you take the piano out, then suddenly the bass has to absorb some of that role. Quite honestly, it becomes like a bass and a piano, because I have to outline chords in time.
Right.
I mean, we're always doing that, but it just, you know, I don't have the chords to fill it up. So I have to do it from the bass, you know, different role.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. That's great.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, especially coming from you, man, with your big ears. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. I'm just having fun. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, sometimes I just feel like I have the best seat in the house just to sit back and listen to your story. So,
oh, man. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, our time has come. Our time is up, man. Like I said, hour goes by really quick.
Wow, that was fast. Yeah. But it was good though. I appreciate this, you know, opportunity just to talk, man, and just hang for a second. Definitely a great thing.
Definitely. So before I let you go, share with our audience. Let them know how they can follow you, social media, websites. You know, that's
okay. Okay, so this is a strange thing. I'm not on social media.
Okay.
But I probably need to do that again. I was on there. Real quick story, and we're gonna get done with this. This ain't long. So one night I got home from a gig and I laid across the bed and I said, okay, I need to do A, B, C before I crash. So I got up, took my clothes off, laid across the bed. 3 hours later, I ain't done nothing. I was on social media, just scrolling. Check out your post, next person. And that's what did it for me. I was like, I can't spend that much time. I need to redirect that time. Yeah. So now back to your question. My website is just Herman Burney hermanburney.com. And my photo site is Basement Photo, BASSMINT photo.com.
Okay.
And you can reach out to me through my website, either of those websites. Mm-hmm. So
great.
And then, you know, when these projects come out, they'll be on, you know, the suspects, the you know, the streaming platforms and all of that stuff. That's where we are today.
That's where we are today.
Yeah.
Great. Man. Well, Brother Burney, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Like I mentioned earlier, we've been discussing this for a while.
Absolutely.
Fruition today, and I want to thank you for sharing.
No, man, thank you for having me. I appreciate that, for real.
Yeah, and your music.
Huh? Oh man, thank you. And your spirit, man. Just, you know, like you said, we gonna regroup.
Definitely. I'm not worried about it. It's all good. We're
it's
good.
Gonna happen. Yeah, I'm gonna make it happen.
When the time is right. Definitely.
Yeah. So, and thanks again for having me, man. I really appreciate this. What a blessing.
Yes, sir, man. Well, all the best to you. Continued success, man. And we will be in touch. Okay.
Yes, definitely. Thanks again, man. All right. Bless you, brother. Later.
Bless you too. So that was a great Herman Burney hanging out with us tonight in Sounds of the Diaspora. And we had a great time, man. But I want to invite you to join us next week as we bring to the stage on this platform another dear friend, amazing musician, Mr. James Weidman. And he has some great music to share and stories and information as well. So come back and join us next week. All right. All the best. Be safe, everyone. Have a good evening.